All right, today we're going to trace the incredible journey of a single particle of light. I mean, think about it. From the sun all the way to a satellite whipping around in orbit and then back down to us as a breathtaking image of our world. This process has totally transformed how we see our planet. So how on earth does it actually work?
It all boils down to this one question. It seems like something out of science fiction, but it's really just a story of absolutely brilliant engineering. So let's break it down step by step. We're going to start with that tiny photon and end up with a map of the entire planet.
Okay, so where do we even begin? Well, our journey starts at the absolute smallest scale you can imagine, inside the satellite sensor itself. This is the fundamental building block of every single satellite image we've ever seen. Right at the heart of every satellite is something called a detector. You can think of it as the spacecraft's retina. Its entire job is to catch photons, particles of light, and turn that light energy into a number, a digital signal. But here's the wild part. Doing this with unbelievable precision while surviving the brutal, freezing, radiation-filled environment of space, that is just a monumental engineering feat.
And, not all detectors are created equal. First up, you've got your CCDs. These are the high-quality workhorses you'll find in legendary satellites like Landsat. Then there's CMOS sensors. They use way less power, which makes them perfect for these massive constellations of tiny CubeSats. And then, get this, for thermal imaging, there are specialized MCT detectors that have to be cryogenically cooled to below 100 Kelvin. That's colder than negative 173 Celsius. They have to be that cold just to function. It's incredible.
So it's not just about the detector itself, it's about how it looks at the Earth. Early satellites used what's called a whisk broom method. Imagine a single spotlight sweeping back and forth across a stage. It gets the job done, but it's not super efficient. Modern systems? They use a push broom design. And this is more like having a giant bar of lights that illuminates the entire stage all at once. It means the sensor can stare at each spot on the ground for longer, soak up more light, and get a much, much cleaner signal. Okay, this next part is a really big deal. This is one of the most fundamental concepts in all of remote sensing. There are basically two completely different philosophies for how a satellite can see the world. First, you have your passive sensors. These are pretty much like the camera you have in your pocket. They don't make their own light, they're basically just listening. They wait for an external source, usually the sun, to light up the Earth, and then they just record the light that bounces back. Or they can listen for the planet's own natural heat radiating out into space.
And then you have active sensors, and they do the exact opposite. Instead of just listening, they create their own energy. They are essentially shouting out into the darkness. They blast out a powerful pulse of energy, like a microwave or a laser, and then they time how long it takes for the echo to come back. This one simple difference gives them some unbelievable abilities.
Yeah, because they make their own light. This is where things get really cool. Active sensors have what you could honestly call technological superpowers. They aren't held back by whether the sun is out or what the weather is doing.
Take SAR, for instance, synthetic aperture radar. By blasting out its own microwave pulse, it can see straight through clouds, smoke, and total darkness as if they weren't even there. This is an absolute game changer for monitoring places like the tropics that are always cloudy, or for responding to disasters in the middle of the night. And if that wasn't amazing enough, a special technique called InSAR can compare two of these radar images and detect ground movements as small as a few millimeters. That lets us monitor volcanoes or track the ground shifting after an earthquake. Just incredible.
So that's microwaves. The other major active sensor is LiDAR, and instead of microwaves, it shoots out these super fast pulses of laser light. By measuring the return time for every single pulse, it builds an unbelievably precise 3D model of the Earth's surface. With LiDAR, we can measure the height of every single tree in a forest, and even see the ground hiding underneath the canopy. It is truly the gold standard for making these highly detailed 3D maps of our world.
Okay, so we've covered seeing in the dark, through clouds, and in 3D. But what about color? Well, satellite sensors see a universe of color that is totally, completely invisible to our human eyes.
And this is where we get into the difference between multispectral and hyperspectral sensors. A multispectral sensor, like the one on Landsat, might see maybe a dozen broad color bands. That's great for telling a forest apart from a city. But a hyperspectral sensor? That sees hundreds of very narrow, very specific bands. It's not just seeing a few slices of the rainbow, it's seeing the entire continuous spectrum in microscopic detail. Here's the best way to think about it. A multispectral sensor can look at a field and tell you, yep, that's green.
A hyperspectral sensor can tell you the exact shade of green that reveals a specific crop is suffering from a nitrogen deficiency or a particular disease. That's an incredible level of diagnostic power, all from orbit.
And of course, there's another dimension beyond color: temperature. Thermal infrared sensors don't see reflected light at all. They see emitted heat. This lets us directly measure the temperature of the land and the oceans, and it allows us to map out things like urban heat islands. You've probably seen these on weather reports, where cities glow red because the concrete and asphalt make them so much hotter than the countryside around them.
So all of these amazing, different technologies, they don't operate in a vacuum. Let's zoom out for a second and see how they all come together to form this incredible global system that's constantly monitoring our entire planet.
What we have today is this really powerful ecosystem. You've got the publicly funded workhorses like Europe's Copernicus program giving us incredible radar and optical data for free, for everyone. Then you've got commercial constellations like Planet, whose fleet of over 200 satellites images the whole landmass of the Earth every single day. And if you need extreme detail, companies like Maxar can task a satellite to get you a picture with sub-meter resolution on demand.
And so we've come full circle. We started with one single photon hitting a tiny detector, and we ended up with a global network that can measure our world with just astonishing precision, in 3D, through clouds, day and night. This technology has given us a view of our home that was unimaginable just a generation ago. And really, it leaves us with the most important question of all. With this newfound power to see almost everything, what should we be watching?